All right. Don't forget to use the raise hand feature on the PC. At least it's down on the bottom along with the chat feature. Sometimes there's little private chats going on in the group chat, so feel free to chime in over there. So Don, it is all yours.
Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is he is going to sell bee jackets for people that don't buy Don's bees that have stingers on them. So he's going to sell a line up there, and he's handling that directly. I can't afford a bee suit yet, so I'm still saving my money for that. The second thing is I've been selling a bunch of nukes, and I was surprised today to see how people that claim to be beekeepers and selling equipment that they can't build a box, and they're just using a butt joint on the end, and the frames are just barely hanging on by less than a 32nd. So if you don't want to download the plans that we have, you can scout around. Some of the different websites would have plans you probably could download down. But the ones that I've got, I made them basically so that they could be used for years and years, and you can trim them down over years. They will warp or buck up, and then you can barely shape them. That way your box will sit flat for years and years. And the next thing is right now you need to be getting in your hives, because I'm scraping off honey faster than I could even pull it. There is so much honey coming in right now. And we have switched over 3 weeks ago. We was using full sheets because the honey flow hadn't started. It is running so heavy now that it's taking a full sheet and just pulling it right out. So we are switched back to our starter strip, which when you put the starter strip in, the bees actually will build that starter strip up stronger. Now, another thing that Stephen is using is he's using plastic. I'm a wood and wax type of person. I make my own foundation. But when Stephen is moving hives and honey boxes from one location to the other, there's chuck holes in the road and the back fields and junk, and you hit it, the honey is dropping off at that honey band. So I guess it's okay if you're going to do honey. Personally, I'm going to stick with the wood and the wax. And that works good for me, and I'm changing out my foundation more regular than most people. And that's another thing. And I don't know if people had read where people are still trying to treat for trachea mites. Proven fact, small cell cannot have trachea mites because the trachea is smaller, so it's unneeded. I haven't treated for trachea mites since 90 or 91. So a little heads up on that. And then if you're buying nukes, I had 3 people come in the last week or week and a half with their stories of woe about buying nukes, that people have nukes to sell them. They walk up and they hand them a box. You're buying a pig in the poke. What I try to do, and I try to teach my students, show the customer the queen that's walking, running, laying, walking on the frames. And you can look at what I try to tell my customers is, before we open the box, I'm going to show you the queen. I'm going to point out the brood. It's in all stages. You've got pollen. You got honey. It's a hive that's ready to go into a box. Now, if you buy bees from anybody and they don't want to do that, get your money back and head for the hills. Evening, Jason. Haven't seen you in a long time. So all the new people, don't be bashful, and no matter what your question is, we'll try to get to it. Our main focus is to get you from backyard beekeeping into making a living at this. So don't feel that you're going to ask a question that's going to be silly. Who's going to be the first up?
Paul is our first contestant. Go ahead, Paul.
How you doing, Don?
I'm doing good.
Today I wanted to move my super from the top and rotate it because everything was on the top.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, well, let me try to find the queen, being that I'm running 2 double deeps, 10 frame. And I went through all 20 frames and I couldn't find the queen for nothing. I even went through the medium super. And then all of a sudden I look at the inner cover and I see a bunch of bees on there, and I turn the cover over and sure enough, there's the queen. So right away I was like, boy, I tell you, I should have listened to Don and checked the cover first.
Well, I think I put a video out on just about every subject that you possibly could come across. And I was loading nukes today, and usually I can open a nuke up and I can spot the queen usually within the first 5 to 10 seconds. I went through one hive twice, and then the customer looked at me. I just loaded everything back up in the nuke. I says, it's not worth looking for it. I'll just go and get you a different box. The queens this year or even last year, they're moving faster than they normally do. So the question was brought up about a week ago. How old is your queens? My queens are old age when they're a month old. So we don't have old queens. And if you're going to sell bees, it's not a good practice to sell virgin queens. I mean, if you got an excess of queens and you don't have a market for them, you can sell them, but you have to explain to a new beekeeper that bee might not come back, you know, and then you don't have that genetics. So that's something to think about.
I opened up a few, well, I opened up all my hives, but I noticed some hives, the bees are all black. And then other hives, I have, you know, the multicolor.
Mm-hmm.
Are those two different? Is one Italian or Russian, or is there any way to distinguish, or, you know, Carniolan?
Well, you have a wide variety of genetics there. And whenever a queen flies out, and if you make queens yourself, you're basically at the mercy of whatever's in the area. Now, if you want to keep your race a lot more pure or cleaner, you can add some green comb or that plastic drone comb. We added in about 50 sheets here at the learning yard this year. So we're trying to flood the yard with what genetics we have. It doesn't even say that even with that, you're going to flood the yard. It's, you know, it's a lottery out there. It's whoever flies the fastest catches the queen.
Yeah. And I think I'm switching back to single 10 frame deeps for my brood chamber, because it was like the second chamber was all honey bound. There was like, you know, there was so much honey in there.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing you say you had a problem with when you had a double box. One thing to do is let your ears listen more than your eyes. When you take the box apart, listen to it. Take a second and listen. The box, the section of the box, the top or the lower box, whatever the queen's at, that's the hive is going to be, or the box is going to be quiet. That's the first thing I try to teach here, because a lot of times you're not going to spot her real fast, you know. And then the next thing is, if you've checkerboard your hive and you put new comb or starter strips in, check those frames first. That's where you'll normally find a queen. They like the new comb.
Yeah. When you were in Ohio, you were running single brood chambers?
Actually, when I was in Ohio, I was a little more dumber. I was running 7 deeps, 10 frame high. And I was using 5-gallon buckets to stand on. That's why my back is messed up. And there's no way I'm going to get back into the honey business. When you get graduated up into raising nukes, then go into queens, then start teaching, you're going to go where you're going to make a living at a lot easier. And in, you know, there's nobody going to tell you all the ins and outs, but if you want to make money in honey, you're going to have a lot of hives. You're also going to have a lot of equipment. And then you have to start getting motorized equipment, because you're not going to be able to keep up with it. The next thing is, you can't do it because you're going to have to hire help. And when you have to depend on help, you might as well forget it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I'm not getting any bigger. Right now I have 18 hives, and it's quite a chore to go through those. I mean, you know, I'm not as quick as probably, you know, but it's still a lot of work.
I don't want to make you feel bad, but I'm an old man and I make 25 to 50 splits every single day. If I don't, I'm not eating. So, yeah. You know, that's the first thing most people notice is when they come here, an old man can move around pretty fast.
Yeah. All right, Don, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, next up is Ernest. Go ahead, Ernest.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I had my first swarm the other day, and I don't know where it come from. I was checking them every 10 days, and I didn't see any queen cells going through every one of them, and apparently one of them must have had a queen cell. So I pulled my truck up, and I thought, where's all these bees coming from? And here I was right in the middle of the swarm, so I pulled it forward, and they went on to the end of my property and landed on a post. So I got them and put them in the hive. So I did catch them, but my hives are just boiling over with bees and queen cells. Next week, there's going to be so many queen cells, I'll never be able to probably keep up with it.
Now, didn't somebody tell you that if you cut your queen cells out, you'll never build enough boxes? Didn't someone tell you that?
Yeah, but they're not closed yet. They're queen cells that's still open, so I got to wait.
They're giving you a few days to get caught up. Now, you know, you say you go through your boxes, and if you didn't spot queen cells, bees are just like people. They're social. And if there's a swarm anywhere near and they go by and they see beehives, they're going to land in a tree. It's like people say they're going to go get away from it all, and they get a camper to go camp it. Where they go? Wherever the most campers are sitting.
Yeah, well, it could have been my neighbor's bees, you know, it come to my property, but I was going through them faithfully, and I didn't see any yet. But anyhow, I got that swarm, and another thing I wanted to ask you about these small mating boxes.
Mm-hmm.
You use them all summer long, putting swarm cells in there, and
I sure do.
In the spring.
No, I'm running a bunch here right now because I run a school here. Stephen's running the biggest majority on about 4 or 5 out yards. But I have to teach it here. And what I'm doing on my 5-frame boxes, I'm running 1 frame or 2 frames in there. If they got a queen cell, what I'm doing is just taking the queen as it hatches and then putting it into a lid and let it walk. I did a video on where they walked into a mini nuke. And then I shake an extra frame of bees. That way, the field bees fly back to the parent hive, and it might be 5 foot away or 10 foot away, wherever I got a space. Now, what I'm doing there is basically I'm limiting the amount of bees I'm losing, because a 5-frame box, when you get a bunch of bees in here to go out and mate, they might not come back. I'll take that 5-frame box and I'll take and shake it 3-4 times and break it down to 4 or 5 of those little mini nukes.
Yeah, well, a little mini nukes, I got a queen cell from my son. I put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
End up dropping it. I thought, it probably won't work. But I put it in there, and I looked at them today, and they had it covered. So apparently dropping it didn't hurt it.
Sometimes they'll hatch, sometimes they won't. It's just, it depends on how they hit. I've had experience with somebody pulling out in front of you and you hitting your brakes and having a container of them, and they fall off the seat onto the floor of the truck. But that's something you just don't know.
Well, I had it wrapped in a towel, so it didn't hit hard, you know.
We like to use those Cool Whip containers with an old T-shirt in there, and you can put about 40 or 50 cells in there and just fold the T-shirt across them. It gives it a little cushion.
Yeah, well, I tried my hand at grafting today, so we'll see how that turns out.
Some people get that real quick and some don't. I mean, it's just like riding a bicycle. You got to keep at it.
Yeah, keep practicing. So
Yep.
That's what I'm doing.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Josh, you're up next. Go ahead. Josh Bryant, can you hear me? You're breaking up really bad. Okay. I guess we'll come back down. Chris B., you're up next. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. And John, I want to thank you. I emailed you a few times this past week, and you gave me a lot of good information to think about. I do have one question for you. I have quite a few Nook boxes, and you had mentioned making mini Nook, and I was wondering, can I just put a divider in that 5-frame box, even though you'll have one more frame on one side than the other, and have an entrance on either side, and use that as a mini Nuke, since I have so many of those already?
You can do that. It's just that you're going to lose a lot more bees, more volume of bees. We used to run the mini nukes. We run them in South Georgia. We used to run them 12 inches wide. We run them 8 inches now, and we run them as singles. Because on a double mini nuke, if you got a queen in each side and the one is not laying just quite enough yet, and the other one is, and you cage that queen and you put a cell in there, when a new queen comes back, sometimes they'll override. They bring back so many bees, they'll migrate around the other side and they'll kill that queen. So it takes a little more to run singles, but I've always had better luck with running singles than I did doubles.
Okay, yeah, I had some of that equipment that I said, well, maybe I can repurpose
If
some
you
of that.
have it, use it. I mean, most people that are doing backyard beekeeping, 10, 12 queens a week is more than they're ever going to use. Until you start getting up where you need 50 or a couple hundred a day, then I wouldn't worry about, smaller boxes.
Yeah, I hope to kick it into high gear over the next couple of years, but it'll take me a little while to pull that off. So
It'll go in gear a lot faster than what you think it is.
Yeah.
I keep telling people, if you just listen to what I'm trying to tell you on these chats and on the videos and stuff, 10%, listen to 10%, you'll have success.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to sell you nothing. You can buy wood, you can do everything everywhere, I'm trying to give you some information.
Yeah. Well, I do have one other question. I ran across a nuke where I've got a good queen in there. She's been laying well, and I've noticed that I'm having more than one egg in a cell, almost like a laying worker. And I haven't run across that where I had a decent queen in a box, and she was laying more than one egg in a cell. I just didn't know if there's something else going on that you've run into there, or if I should just pinch her and start over.
A lot of times when a queen comes back for a day or two, they'll lay multiple eggs, but usually if the queen is good, the workers will get in there and they'll pull some of the eggs out.
Yeah, straight.
If you got one that's laying 7 to 10 days, then I would kind of look at it, replace the queen, or if you got a laying worker in there, get rid of her then.
Yeah, I made a note of it. I'm going to get in there tomorrow. I have to do most of my work on the weekend right now, so I'm going to check it out tomorrow and see what the situation is.
Okay.
Good deal. Thanks.
Okay. Next up is Ricky. Go ahead, Rick.
Hey, g'day. Just thought I'd just share a little story from last fortnight. I was planning on logging into the chat, but 15 minutes before the chat started, I noticed a swarm of bees in the bee yard. So I was really excited because I've only been beekeeping for 3 months, and it was the first swarm, and it's like a couple of weeks away from winter here. So so I raced out with a newt box, put it on top of this barrel where they were all on. I scooped up a pile of bees with a bit of cardboard, put it in the top of the newt box, and bang, they all started walking into the newt box. So I thought, oh, well, I've got all this worked out. Anyway, about half of them walked in, and then I noticed there was a queen. I thought, oh, okay, the queen's not inside. So I tried to, maneuver her towards the entrance of the newt box, and she doesn't want to go in. So I picked her up on my finger. She walked on my finger, and I popped her in on the entrance, and she luckily went in. I thought they all walked in. I thought, that's great. So went back half an hour later, and there was a big swarm of bees around the newt box and nothing in the newt box, and they all went to the lemon tree. So, and the swarm on the lemon tree was half the size. So it looks like I had 2 queens in that swarm. They joined together. So I missed an opportunity there, but I got one of them. So I was pretty excited about that. And at the same time, we had an air show happening about a couple of kilometres away, and we had F-16s flying around above head. So everything was happening. So anyway, I think I should have listened to you, Don.
I've put that up several times on videos. Nature does not make one queen when they fly out. They always have multiple queens. I've never seen a swarm with one. They've always have a minimum 2, 3. I've got as many as 30. And right now in the springtime, it's usually between 5 and 12. You'll find that many, and they are not going to kill each other. And sometimes one queen will go in, and if the other one's reluctant to go in, they'll sit on the outside. Or if you've got 2 queens in there and they start to fight it out, then they'll swarm up in the air again. It's the strongest will survive.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was a great experience to have to see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
So after she's laying eggs and all that sort of stuff, they're on the feed, and so it's all good. I've got an extra hive for nothing.
Free money is always good in it.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
And they're new people. If you want to talk or you want to ask a question, don't be bashful. Put your hand up and wave. You know, make some kind of noise. We'll see you. Get your question in there.
All right, Bill is up next. Go ahead, Bill.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good. Don, I had a hive that swarmed on me. I was gone for 2 weeks. Bad time to be out of your bee yard for 2 weeks. But it swarmed on me, and I went through it today, and I found the hive that had swarmed, and there was 8 cells in that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make some. I already made some 3-frame mating nukes. Can I use that swarmed hive to build my mating nukes?
Yes. Are you talking about using it as a whole hive? Or the swarm cells that you got in there? Are you talking about cutting those out to use those to make more splits?
Yeah, I'm gonna cut those out, but the kicker there is it's on plastic, so I don't know if I can get those off of there or not. So
well, if you look at the cells and you got bees around them, usually the cells are good. Now, what I would do is get some number 8 hardware cloth and cut it, and use. You could probably use your finger. I try a dowel rod, a 1/2-inch dowel rod, and just wrap it around the dowel rod. And then you could just poke it over the top of each cell, and that way you can go back and release them individually. It's another way on the plastic to use it.
Okay, that sounds a lot better than me trying. There's a good chance that I couldn't get those cut off there, and I'd sacrifice the whole hive then.
Anytime you have bees that's on the cell, that they're usually a good cell, unless like if the temperatures drop down below 55 and you don't see bees walking around it, then normally they abandon it because they can tell the cell is dead.
Okay. And another thing, I left, I was gone for 2 weeks, and when I left, it was wintertime, kind of like what Paul was saying. We had snow here a couple of weeks ago. I came back, and I had not taken off my feeding shims, and you talk about a mess. They have drawn, I worked on it all day. I had honey everywhere, but anyhow, I just want to share that. So thanks.
You have to keep with it. I'm in my boxes pretty regular, and I run a bunch of boxes, and I'm very bad about when I make a split or I sell a nuke, I'll just go down 2 hives down, and I'll reach in and pull a frame out and put it back into the nuke box that I just sold. And then I got this good intention. I'm going to come back and put a frame in there when I get time. Well, usually 2 to 3 days or a week goes by, and then I've got all this extra comb just hanging from the lid in there. So no matter how many years you do it, unless you have just a few hives, when you start running numbers, you've got so much on your mind, and you've got customers in and out constantly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Paul, go ahead.
Don, I don't know if you collect pollen, but what do you think of the Sundance pollen trap?
Well, if you sell pollen, it just depends on what your motives is. I sell bees, and bees need pollen to make more bees. So to me, the amount of money you get for pollen compared to making bees, I think bees is better. And then you got to look at the market. Do you have a market for it?
Yeah.
There's so many people that's getting in it, and it's a lot of work. Anybody can collect pollen, but they're not telling you that you have to clean it. It can't be moldy, and it has to be, free of debris and legs and bees and whatever else they get collected up in there.
Yeah.
And then, one thing no one thinks about is it's a food product, and you have a liability there.
All right. Yeah, that's true.
So, it's just, I mentioned things that no one else is telling you.
Yeah. All right. Good point. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, Josh, number 2, go ahead.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. I'm sorry about all this mishap. All the computer was crapping out on me. I can't stand electronics swearing me out. But anyways, quick question here. I just got my very first nuke in. I've got it. I built your 5-frame nuke box, high top feeder on. I put the nuke in. It's been I guess, 9 days, they have cram-packed it. There's bees everywhere. The brood is frame edge to frame edge. It's packed. They're just starting to throw in drone cells. They don't have the queen cells in yet. How often should I be in that box looking for queen cells to start splitting?
You just said the magic word right there. They making drones right now. They
Yes.
shouldn't be doing that unless they're getting ready. That box is crowded. And
Yeah.
remember the thing that I keep preaching? Bees only do two things. They multiply and they store honey. When they start making drones, they're usually getting ready to swarm in 3 weeks. Right now, what I would do if you got that box, unless you're going to breed a lot of queens, if it's wood and wax, I'd take a knife, like a little steak knife, and I'd cut the drones out, and I'd just put it back, and I'd checkerboard that hive. Now's the time they'll expand up crazy fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm wanting to raise them basically for the bees, so I'm wanting to make as many bees. I was under the assumption that I was supposed to cram pack them so they start making queen cells, and then I can start making my splits like that.
Well, if you want to do that way there, yes, keep them crowded. Because right now they're in that process. They're making drones. They have to have drones to mate. So that's the natural process.
Is that, I mean, this is my first time doing this. Is this what you'd want me to do, Don?
I want you to be successful. So, you know, if you've got one nuke and it's that crammed, you better start building 15 or 20 more nukes because, you know, each frame's going to have 10, 15 cells on it, unless you just want to go 4 or 5 at a time.
Yeah, I'm staying ahead of it. Well, I'm staying ahead of it right now. I've got a bunch of boxes built now, painted, ready to go.
Yeah. Let them make cells. Now, another thing you can do to make your cells easier to cut, I don't use spacers. I take my finger and I put it on the sidebar and I push it up against the side of the box. And then when I put my fingers on the next frame, I put it up against that spacer. That gives me an extra little bit, the width of my finger, and that spaces your frames out. It gives you a little bit more spacing between your frames. It'll encourage the swarm cells and your queen cells. And when you do, you can pull them apart easier.
Awesome. Nice, nice. So what do you think? Be looking there about every 3 days?
No, if you check them about every 10 days, you should be in good shape. If they're crowded, the first indication you're going to see is the drones, and then the next they're going to start hanging out the front. They can't all get in the box.
Okay.
Are they starting to beard out yet?
Nope, not yet. They're not. Okay. They're not bearding at all.
You running solid bottoms or screen bottoms?
Solid bottoms.
Okay. Because these cool nights, if you're running cells, they're liable to chill on you.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
Okay.
Okay, next up is Amir. Go ahead, Amir. Oh, hang on, I can't unmute you. You got to do it. There you go.
All right, buddy. How's everyone doing?
Okay.
All right. Technical question. I had sent a message to you early on Facebook in the week. I know you're busy. Don't check that stuff, but quarter crown staplers versus half-inch crowns. What's the significance?
I have a bunch of different staplers. I have a stapler just about for every job. I cut a lot of my own wood, and I'm using oak, hickory, whatever I use. So a half-inch crown with a name brand, it'll pull a cup right out of your wood. The quarter crown, $20 Harbor Freight deal, it'll build boxes. But the staples can back out a little bit on you. I bought a pass load and I bought a Senko because I buy staples in volumes. And when I get a good deal, I usually buy 10, 15 boxes of staples at a time.
Right.
And I like my Hive boxes with half-inch or 7/16 crown because they don't back out as easy.
Okay. The other thing is for stapling the cleats on the frames. Is that a hat? What is that? What is that?
You're talking about the wedge to hold your waxing?
Yes.
Never use a staple there. Always use a brad.
Use a brad nail. Okay.
Right. A 5/8 brad. If you use a staple there, you're going to tear that wedge up.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you tried to take any apart. I mean, that's
no. I haven't put them together yet. What it is I'm still behind, man. I ain't even got packaged yet. But I'm just trying to. going to Harbor Freight to get some equipment, I checked to see what they had, and I just want to make sure I get the right thing. You know what I mean? So that's why I was checking. I saw you use a 1/2 inch doing your box on one of your videos.
Right.
And then I know you mentioned Brad nailers, and then they got combinations too.
Yeah.
So it's probably not even worth it getting a combination. Just get one of each. They're only $25.
Well, it just depends on what you're doing. I have a 23 gauge staple gun, an air gun, which is the same staple as a desktop stapler. I use that to put queen cages together.
Okay.
Now the 1/4 crown, I like that for putting frames together. It's light. If I get a woman in here or a small guy, you know, they're not heavy. A big 1/2 inch crown or a 7/16 crown is about 5 times as heavy. And for a woman to hold her arm straight out with that heavy gun, after a box or two, it gets heavy. So.
Okay. So let me see if I got you straight. 1/4 inch staple for frames, 1/2 inch to 7/16 for boxes.
Right.
And 5/8 brad nails for the cleat.
For the wedge.
The wedge. Yeah, the wedge.
Now, another frame, a gun you should probably get if you're going to do a lot of volume is go to the pawn shop and look for an old staple gun that they used to put roofing shingles on.
Right.
And it's a 1 inch staple, and get your staples 7/8 or 1 inch. I like to staple my bottom boards to my box. That way, when I move a hive, I don't have that bottom board dropping on me.
Okay.
Some people depend on it just being painted and sticks on it or propless.
Right.
There's nothing bad about that, but you know, when it drops off, they come up in your face and they're not happy.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's it. That's it for now.
Okay. Where's that hat?
It's been
Retired?
No, it's been 90-some degrees.
Yeah.
Here the past couple days, man. I got 25 years worth of hair
Yeah.
because of that hat. So
I got 50-some.
Yeah, so it's been a little hot, and I was working out in the yard today too, and
Yeah.
so, you know, it's a little warm today. So, but no, man, I'm just getting, you know, I asked you that question about how late I got. I talked with Mark a couple of days ago, thinking about going down to see him maybe one day next week before he gets on his run. So
now Mark is planning on several trips. He's going to do one out west. He's going to do a southern one. He's going to do a couple northeast. So the best thing to do is get with him, and don't let people tell you that June and July is too late. I sell a lot of bees in September. Now it's true you're going to have to feed them, but get bees when you can. Right now, anything above Tennessee, the 15th of May, that's when they're normally going to get their bees.
Okay.
And then it's been exceptionally cold up there. So, and then they got snow in places. So get them bees and start selling them.
Okay. He's only about 2 hours away from me.
Yeah.
He's not that far. So we talk. We're going to talk again.
Yeah.
But thank you so much.
You got to take the leap. You know, it's just like anything else. If you're not making mistakes, you're not going to learn.
Well, that's
true. Here to try to help you not make as many.
That's true. I just want to make sure when I go in this place, I buy the right stuff, and you know, just it'll make it easier for me to start putting stuff together. So, I thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Next up is Janet Kaiser. Go ahead, Janet.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, Don. Les and Janet from Indiana.
Hey, how you doing there? Welcome to the chat.
Thank you. Hey, we're new to the beekeeping, and I just overwintered 2 hives, and I've got 3 deeps on them with no queen excluder, and I'm wanting to split the hives. What do you suggest?
Why do you want to stack your boxes so high?
Well, you know,
are you a glutton for punishment?
No, you know, at the end, I really didn't know what to do at the end of last year. I didn't want to rob them, so I just put another deep on them and let them have what honey that they had. So that's the dilemma I'm in right now.
There is a good point right there. Everybody, as I've talked it, that's the belief. You don't take honey the first year. I have a preacher in the next town will tell you he bought 30 packages from me. In the first year, he made 3 to 6 gallons of honey per hive, and he split them 5 to 6 times.
Wow.
It goes back to the same thing. Bees do two things. They multiply and store honey. And by stacking honey up, the bees are just like humans. Once they get a certain amount of honey there, they're not going to work as much. It's just like your pantry. Once you get your thing stocked up there, you're not going to go shopping. But if you keep pulling it off on a regular basis, they keep replacing it. You actually make more honey. And it's
Okay.
also easier on the back.
Yes.
Anytime you pull a frame out and it's capped off 3/4, turn it frame sideways and give it a light shake. And look at the top of the frames when you shake it. If there's nothing slings out, you can extract it. But
Okay.
you can take a super and pull 2 frames out, scrape it off if you're just getting started and you don't want to buy an extractor. Scrape it off into your wife's strainer into a pot, let it sit overnight, let it drain out, and then all them cappings, you can set it in a bucket, set it outside, the bees will recycle it, take those frames, set them right back in the hive. Don't put them side by side, put them between 2 that's already drawn out, and they'll build them back just like new again. Save the wax, your wife can make candles out of it. Lip balms, all kinds of goodies.
Mm-hmm. So what
Sounds good.
So what do you suggest I should do with these 3 deeps I got? Should I
Well-
split them or try to split them or?
Well, if you're going to split them, you're losing half the bees because you don't have no guarantee the queen's coming back. I would have kept them in, keep them down low. 1
Right.
to 2 boxes, and when they get crowded, let them make cells and then make a minimal split. 1 frame, 2 frames.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you got a hive just like what you're describing there, I could get that same hive and make 10, 20 splits off of it. And if I lost
Yep.
half of them, I'm 5 ahead of walk away splits.
Right. Yeah, because the one hive is really strong. The other one, not quite as much, but the one's really crowded right now. I
Well,
think
if
it's
you're making
really
queen
strong.
cells, cut the cells out and only use a frame of honey and a queen cell and shake some extra bees in there.
Okay.
It takes a couple of bees to keep a cell warm. And when the
Okay.
queen flies out, she's going to gather up a big bunch of bees coming back.
Okay. Thank you.
Build boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Chris Napper, you're next.
Hey, everybody.
Yay.
Hey, I did an inspection today. Both my hives, I found a whole frame, both sides, full of drones.
Uh-oh.
Should I yank that frame out and get rid of it?
You want to make hives of bees?
Well,
What do you want to do? Make honey?
I don't want them to swarm.
Well, you got a whole frame of drone. You either got a queen that's failing on you or they're getting ready to swarm. Usually,
Well, I am finding
usually on a frame, you should be able to take a dollar bill and lay it across all the drones. If you can't cover it with a dollar bill, then you're getting ready to swarm. Because
Okay.
all hives are going to have a certain percentage of drones. That's just natural.
So I should get rid of those frames?
Well, if you want to do it for mite control, you could put them in a freezer, freeze them, and put them back into your hive, let the bees clean them out. But if you're on wax, it's already drones, they're only going to put drones back or they're going to use it for honey.
Yeah, it is wax. It's
All right, if it's wax, then I would freeze it. If you got fire ants, let them chew it out. If you got chickens, let them eat it.
I got none of that.
Okay, well,
I'll just demo it. All right, thanks.
all right.
All right. Next up is Chris B. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, this is for Amir. He was talking about going to Harbor Freight and getting a nail gun, and I picked up a couple years ago a combination quarter crown staple and brad gun, and that one's worth getting because you can get by with one gun for two things, and it's served me real well. So
Yeah.
if you're looking at getting a combo one, that's a good one to think about. It was next to nothing at Harbor Freight, and you got to watch. Sometimes you get stuff over there, it's a little iffy, but it's worked real well for me.
But for the money though, for that gun you're talking about, I have one of those, and I also have one that shoots nothing but the quarter crown staple, and I have one that shoots nothing but the brads. An individual gun I think is a little bit better, but the combination when you're talking about, I got one out there that's probably 2 years old. I've got an old blue one I don't know if you bought stuff years ago at Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight used to have a gun that was called, it was a little red gun. It didn't have a safety on it because OSHA got after them. You could buy them things for, they was $13 at Harbor Freight. I used to buy 20 of them at a time. And the nice thing about them is you could get up into the corner and you could shoot a brad with them. Where the new ones, they got a safety on there. If the safety's not depressed, it won't shoot. But you know, you're right. You know, you get a good gun or you get a bad one. For the cost, it ain't worth taking a warranty on it. Buy an extra.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's worked out well for me. I just want to pass that along.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Josh, number 2, go ahead.
Josh, too.
Yeah. We'll fix this next time. We won't do this next time. But I seen on one of your previous bee chats that I've been binge watching. You were talking about the Russian bees are not a good choice, and of course, I didn't know anything about buying bees. I just got with my little local bee club, and that's basically what I was given. I've got a set of Russian bees, and they'll get right up in your face. You know, you open up that hive, and you've got them crawling over your face mask, and I don't think it's very pleasant. What kind of bees would you recommend?
At 90 degrees, get bees that you can work. I mean, there's nothing wrong with different races. It depends what you want. I teach beekeeping here, so I get people that's never been around a bee. I get kids come here. I get older folks that come here. I get war vets that are amputees, and they can't run fast from bees that are angry. And I've had purebred Russians here, back 500 feet from the house, and you walk out and they attack you. I can't put up with that. So I do a mixed breed. I have a bee that's very gentle. I have a bee that winter's good and works good, puts up honey, and a bee that, you know, in any weather. I have to be able to go out there and catch and cage queens, rain or shine.
Mm-hmm.
So
is it a Canorian?
Do what?
Is it an Italian or?
I run extra drone comb, and I run Carniolan and Italian. I run 2 different lines of Italian, 2 different lines of Carniolan, and I bring in Caucasian about every 3rd year. And I'm hoping to get some of Jason's stock down here and see how that's going to work.
Awesome. So what this means, I'm going to have to buy some bees off of you.
So, you know, if you want good queens, but he's probably sold out all the time. And if you can't find bees now, you know, you're missing the boat.
Yeah, and you just said something on the AI, the breeder queens.
Right.
Is it worth that, or is it worth letting the bees raise their own queen?
It depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what your market is. Right now, I could put a yellow jacket in a cage and somebody would buy it. They buy it on name only, you know. It's and I'm not saying my bee is any better than anybody else's, but if you're trying to run purebred stock, then you know you might have more problems with it. I want a bee that anybody can. In fact, I take people's hands and I put them on barehanded on the bees so they can see.
Oh yeah.
I want people to work these bees. I want them to reproduce these bees.
I ain't doing that in my hive. There's no way.
You know, there's a lot of different genetics out there, and there's a lot of things out there. And people say, what kind of bees you got? You know, and I don't have the best bees. I got honey bees. They're mixed bees that you can work that live. That's all I can say.
And the
it's
ones
like
that
poodles and German shepherds and mastiffs, whatever. Any purebred is going to have some problems with it. I feel, you know, this is my opinion. But if you get an old alley dog or an alley cat, you can run over by the car and they'll live. I mean, you could hardly kill an alley or a Heinz variety.
Yeah, right.
Do the same thing.
So now that I've got this, they're not aggressive when I walk by the box. They only get aggressive when I open the hive up. You know, they really start hitting me and pounding me. I've got 20 stingers in my gloves, you know. I know you say don't wear gloves, but these crazy things.
Well, there's the thing you have to put up with. You know, if you want to sell bees, you got to either advertise a lot or you have to be, someone opens the door for you. That's why people come here, become students. They got a business going right away. You say you got Don's bees, everybody wants to get on the bandwagon and buy them bees.
Well, I might have to get some Don's bees because I don't think mine are as cool as yours.
I got videos out there, and I don't own a bee suit. And it's not that I, know my bees. The bees don't get to know you. I've done videos on cutting out bees in houses, and I had lots of people say, well, the bees get to know you. I cut bees out of a house with no bee suit with another student that wore a bee suit, and I didn't have a bee suit, and those bees was in that house 15 years. They had to be inbred a couple times. I didn't wear a bee suit. So it's learning. Your gloves is another trick too. I did a video out here where I put my chin on the beehive, and the bees wasn't bothering me. They was coming up around my face, but they wasn't stinging me. And one of the professors had his gloves on. I said, lay your glove up there. Before he could even get his hand away from the glove, those bees was covering that glove up. Those pheromones in that glove, that sting pheromone, that they go after it.
So you think those Russians, I should try it without gloves on?
Well, if you think you need gloves, try using the latex gloves and see if that helps. Try liquid smoke in your hands. Sometimes that helps.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'll figure out a way to, I guess, wean this batch of bees out.
Well, if you're going to sell bees, you have to have a product that you believe in and the customers believe in. Either that or have a bank account that you can put a lot of advertisement out there.
I got you. Right.
I sell a bunch of bees, and I stopped advertising in 1970. It's just like when I do this chat, or if I have Facebook. You could say something bad about me, and there's 100 people going to jump all over you because they've been here. They've seen it, so Jason got gloves. I like them. Those are fancy ones.
Well, all right. I appreciate it, Don. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, Dale Jones. Go ahead, Dale.
Hey, how you doing, Don?
Okay.
Look, I'm switching over to the 8-frame medium boxes. I built them 6 3/4. And
okay.
My rabbits on the side is 3/4 by 3/8, and then I went ahead and done a 3/4 inch rabbit on top.
That's what I do.
Okay. All right.
Because what you do there is when you put a frame there, you're going to have a full 3/8 on top.
Right.
Now, if you come back 5 years or 10 years and barely shave that, put it up against the fence on your table saw and just shave it enough to trim it up, because your hive tool is going to booger it up. You're going to get nicks in it. That cleans it up. That's going to give you years of trimming up and using that box.
Wow.
Now, I don't do mine at 6 3/4. I do mine 6 13/16. And I do 9 7/8 for that same purpose.
Okay, but it's okay for that rabbit to be just an 1/8 inch deeper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, here's the only thing. You might get a little bit of burr comb.
I get it anyway.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Men are not as bad as women. Women are tidy freaks. They like to scrape and clean. I had a lady come over here, and she was working the hive. And the first thing she got her hive tool out, and there was burr comb. And she took her hive tool and started scraping it off. I said, that's the best way to decapitate a queen. I said, leave it there. The only reason there's burr comb is because from the top of the frame to the bottom of the bottom bar is improper, and they're using it as a ladder. You take it off, and by the time you close that box up and walk away and come back in 2 days, you got it back again.
Yeah.
And never scrape the side of your box. Never do that.
Okay. And I have caught 6 swarms. That would be good if they weren't my bees.
Well, that's good. I see Dina shaking her head. She must do that a lot.
I appreciate it, Don.
All right.
All right.
That's what we're here for, to learn and to help one another out.
Next up is Ernest. Go ahead, Ernest.
Yeah, Don, I got a first bee sting this morning, and I was out feeding and wasn't doing anything to them, and one would come and nail me, and I just wondered if it would cause all the hives are getting full and they have more to be concerned about, or maybe something's bothering them. What do you think?
It's probably your neighbor's bees. It wouldn't be yours.
Right.
No, you shouldn't be feeding them where you're at right now. There's a honey flow. Right now, I've been scraping comb off where I forgot to put frames in, setting frames or chunks of comb. It's got honey. They've been sitting there for 3 days.
Yeah, well, some of them takes it and some of them don't. So if they need it, my son was over tonight and he said, boy, you're doing something right because I got bees from wall to wall. I said, well, you got to feed them.
That's what you have to do. You must be learning something.
That's right. I had the bee inspector here this week, and he did a good job. I watched what he's doing, and he seemed to go to the queen every time. Is there any way that you can look down on those bees? And I know it's usually about the center, but sometimes it wasn't the center. About every time he pulled it out, he pushed them both ways. You know, he made it good and clear so he can move them out. But about every time he pulled it out, there was a queen on that.
I go for the newest comb. That's what I look for. The newest comb is where you're going to find your queen most of the time.
Yeah, well, I found out that I was trying to get a couple, 4 hives so I could put my queen cells over in there to be finished.
Yeah.
And I found out if I smoked them a lot, I had a heck of a time finding that queen. But if I went in there and didn't smoke them, you know, they kind of fly up a little bit at you, but I could, you know, find a queen a lot quicker. But
well, when you was down here, did you notice I don't smoke in the box? I smoked on the side of the box and let it roll across the top. That's the way I try to teach here, because if you're not paying attention to your smoker and you got coals or embers flying out and you hit a queen, you're going to lose a good queen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I caught my first queen this week. So I still don't get how you catch that queen and you put it up against you and you get it in your hand and put it in the box. You do it so fast, I don't see what you're doing.
I try to slow down.
Do you actually put it on your chest and then put your hands around it, or?
It depends on how I grab them. I usually try to grab them by the wings, but if I have to mark a queen, then I grab them by the wings, then I put my finger up and I let the queen put her legs around my fingers. Then I close my fingers up so she don't spin around, and I mark them. But I don't like to mark queens.
Yeah, I noticed you did it so quick, I couldn't see exactly what you did. Well, that's all I have for now, so thank you.
Okay.
All right, over to Matt. Now that he's adjusted his hair, go ahead, Matt.
No, he's finishing dinner.
I don't know. Well, I guess what I'd like to start off with is I think somebody mentioned frames, and I found this frame that has the actual beveled edge, and it's got the holes for the fishing line.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I previously used one where you had to actually remove the bar and
right,
basically, you know, and this to me just seems simpler. And I don't know if this has been mentioned, but I thought I'd bring that up to people. I think we got these from Kelly B.
Yeah.
So
They're
you know,
super easy.
Yeah, it's just, it eliminates a step, and you know, having to staple those things in and everything was.
Well, the only problem that, you know, and unless you're not selling bees, then you have to always think outside the box. If you're going to do bees in the backyard, you know, without buying foundation, you want to wax that bevel there, then, you know, that's okay. But most people want either a piece of plastic in there, or they want a starter strip or a piece of foundation. So it limits what you can use it for. So you have to be open to different markets out there. You might run across somebody who wants nothing but natural drawed, and then the next guy, he only wants, he wants the plastic.
Yeah, I'm confused because this is all going to be wax. There's nothing here. It's similar to a starter strip.
But how do you put a sheet of plastic in there?
Nothing. No, we don't.
No, we just do a bead line.
No, I know you don't, but see, you limit other people that are going to buy just that if they want to sell bees, because there's people that will use plastic because they're on a bumpy road and they can't use natural drawed.
Okay.
That's what we was talking about at the beginning of the chat.
Well, I missed the beginning.
Yeah, well, we'll start earlier next time.
Just a little thing.
But I definitely like the fishing line. The fishing line.
It gives it reinforcing.
Absolutely, and we've done that. This particular frame doesn't have it yet because I haven't done that.
Right.
But put the wax on and the X of the fishing line.
It gets so hot here when you tilt them, they just melt.
Well, now, I don't know if you watch the videos, when you're doing natural draw, you can't lean them sideways. You have to stand them vertically. You can rotate them vertically. They are strong that way, but the other way, they'll break off of that honey band.
Yeah, we found that it's okay to tilt it this way.
Right.
This way, not so much.
No.
Especially with our new swarms where we didn't actually put the fishing line in.
Right. Yeah.
And there's nothing there.
That fishing line is awesome.
Yeah. Well, we have yet to find that out, but I believe it is. I mean, I've seen. I'm thinking it will be.
Well, that's the whole purpose of these chats, to where you can exchange information that ain't taking you to the bank. And a lot of people that, especially where you live, they're fishermen, and they're stripping off their fishing pole every year and throwing it in the garbage. And when you start taking it and winding it up and then reusing it, repurposing it, people, they're staying back, wow, I never thought of that. And it's so simple.
And free.
Free. Free is always good.
Yes. One of the other things I wanted to mention, I watched a video somewhere, somebody was tagging their hives, and they were using cattle tags, and I thought about it, and what I figured would make a little more sense are these aluminum tags.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can see, you can actually, and I know, Don, you don't like to mark queens, but if you want to mark the queen, you can put the paint on there and you can write on it with a ballpoint pen, and you can be able to read.
And they're super cheap.
And they're dirt cheap, and you can actually write the date the queen was born on the other side, or whatever information you want. I thought I'd bring that up because we started to do this with our hives, and I figured I'd mention it.
And it was just
it's like 50 of them for like, I don't know, $9 or $10, which, if you're a small operation, that's not a big deal. But if you're in, a larger operation, you could probably get a larger discount. But I figured I'd mention that.
Okay.
And was there anything?
No, I think we're good.
I think that's it. So.
You must have had dinner early tonight.
We did.
Yes.
Okay, over to Deanna. Go ahead, Deanna.
Oh, okay. The bird comb that we were talking about, that you guys were talking about earlier. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, good. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, we scrape like crazy just to get it off, but we throw it in our swarm box, and then for our swarm traps, and then they'll use that. They love the bird comb, and then a little lemongrass, and bam, we got a new swarm.
There you go. Free bees.
That's the best thing. And then we have like stencils that are like, I don't know, 12 inches by 18 inches, and then we just spray paint our boxes. But the state of Florida is changing our numbers because we have
to have numbers. It's been a long time since I took bees in there. Now you've got to have them netted down or you get fined, and you've got to have numbers branded on them, and you have to have your numbers registered. I guess all the years ago that, we just hauled them down. We would go to the back road. The worst thing was the agricultural inspection station. But if we went that way, we'd go through there about 3 a.m. with the fluorescent lights, and they'd wave you on real quick. They don't want you there.
Yeah, we have a lot of commercials that will just like migrate their bees and transport them. I don't. I like my bees local. My customers like the bees local because I'm more of honey than more of commercial transport.
You got orange honey now?
I don't do orange honey. It's all wildflower.
Oh, I like orange honey.
It's too late for me. I'm more of a molasses girl because we have avocado trees, so it gives it a nice strong.
You're further south than the orange fields?
Actually, a lot of the developers are eating up all the orange fields.
Right.
We don't have a lot of orange trees anymore.
We used to take bees over there at Lakeland and Indian River and
That's still north.
Kissimmee.
I'm south of Lake Okeechobee.
Yeah. We had one of our students had bees just north of Okeechobee there, and he was doing fairly good, but there wasn't no orange trees around there.
Yeah, because of all the canker that we were having,
Right.
and they like, you have to kill them. So, and then they went to residence all the way down. So, and then the developers bought the land, so now we have housing.
What are you doing for your Africanized bees? Are you just changing queens out, or are you marking them?
No, we don't mark them. We actually have the inspector come out if we get called on it because they're aggressive or we have a hot hive. And then what they'll do is they'll just take a sample of the drone comb, and then they'll have it go to the lab.
Yeah.
And I mean, but all our bees, it has about between 2 and 5%, I think, of the genetic.
Yeah.
Because we're south. And it's going around in that area. So yeah, we're just continuously breeding it out. There's no way we're going to get rid of the total. They're not going with the percentage rate anymore. They've changed it again. And last month we still have more rules now that we have to follow because the state has changed it to where also if we're going to be selling our queens to each other, we literally have to tell the state, yeah, we sell our queens, we are a dealer. Not only are we a commercial beekeeper or a backyard beekeeper, everybody should register their bees. You know, that helps us in the community, in the bee community, know that, okay, yeah, you know, that's fine. You're part of it, but dabbling, that's kind of, we don't really, we just want everything right and the same and proper. I mean, I think that would go with anybody,
Well, if you're making a living at it, you have to, or you won't be making a living very long.
Exactly. And every beekeeper makes mistakes, and every beekeeper, some things are not going to work out for one beekeeper as it does for another beekeeper. I mean, you just got to go with what works for you.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
My techniques don't work for everybody.
Yeah, we're with the Florida State beekeepers. We're along with the Florida State. We're actually fighting the PCOs because they're telling us that we're killing bees, and I just went livid. And a lot of us at the beekeepers meetings, and from south of Miami up, Miami, Homestead, we're all like on this bandwagon because the PCOs are like, oh yeah, they are still legal to kill bees, and we're trying to overturn that because of the pollination. I mean,
right.
We do have a lot of pollinators, and I am not
all bees are going to be deemed Africanized bees, but you can take somebody that doesn't like bees, and anything that flies is a killer. So,
Oh, the landscapers. Oh yeah, the landscapers. Oh yeah, they're Africanized. No, they're not. They're just ticked off because they don't like you. You smell funny. It could be any.
Yeah.
Usually it's the lawnmower. But everybody will go, oh yeah, I have no problem. But if you call your PCO and spray the swarm that's on the tree, and then the swarm is on the ground dead, and then your little chihuahua comes over and starts licking or eating the dead bees, hey, not my problem. You knew I was on the way, and it just infuriates me that people actually don't think it through. Oh, I'm protecting my dog. Yeah, well, you're not picking up the bees that were just sprayed. No. So it's hard. It's really heartless sometimes.
We enjoy you new people at the chats and stuff. So I'm glad you're speaking in there. Give everybody. You might want to explain to them what we're talking about. The PCOs.
PCOs are pest control organizations or pest control companies.
Right.
And they go by any random name.
Yeah. Exterminator.
Exterminator. Freaking. Yeah, Truly Nolan, all of those. And, even landscapers themselves will go on their pest control service, because not only are they spraying the Roundup around the areas, you know, around fences and stuff, because they're too lazy to take a weed whacker and they don't want to use up the string to weed whack.
The biggest thing that we see around it north of Atlanta and around the suburbs of Atlanta is the companies that come out and spray for your green golf course look, and it's killing all the Dutch clover. It's killing all our good weeds.
Yeah, it really is. And down here we have so many subdivisions because all our orange fields are gone. Now it's just developers, and with the hurricane that travestized Puerto Rico, we have a lot of Puerto Ricans that are now here because they came here because to get away from what's over there. And it's just a lot of people, and we're still building in Palm Beach County. So when the neighborhoods are all getting sprayed, landscapers are just doing this, I'll just spray the bees. And, you know, I'm in a ruckus. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm protecting, you know, the earth. You know, this is my fight, you know.
Well, hang in there. We need beekeepers.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely do, because I do not see myself pollinating for my coffee in the morning every day. No, I'm not going to be that card, you know, painting the red roses white. There's just no way. So, yeah.
Appreciate you joining.
Always a pleasure.
Okay. Over to Amir, go ahead. Oh, nope, you got unmuted again. There you go.
One more question. You got me looking at with my.
You're breaking up, Amir. No, we're picking up something. There's static or something. There you go, whatever you're doing.
Okay. I don't know. There's nothing in my background. I'm here by myself. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you now.
The wood miser.
Right.
You got me looking at those. So I've seen several of them, and this LT15, is that the one you have?
No, I have an LT40.
Oh, you got
HD. It's hydraulic.
Okay.
But for a entry type saw to build bee boxes and stuff, your main thing would be sharpening blades. Have somebody that knows how to sharpen them locally. Buy you a Harbor Freight. It's manual. That's a good entry level saw.
Okay.
That LT40 that I got, that's the fourth wood miser that I've owned. I just gradually go up, and that one's for sale. And when I sell that, I'm getting one that has a seat so I can ride more.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go up, because when you're getting to beekeeping, there's a lot of things you're going to put money in that, you know, you're not going to use on a regular basis.
Right.
You know, it's the saw blade, and then it's the horsepower of the saw. That's the main thing. Then that's the convenience of lifting a log and turning it manually versus the hydraulic.
Right, I saw that. Okay. That's cool. Oh, and let me ask you one more question about a table saw. Is there any specific thing I can look for in getting a table saw?
You're breaking up pretty bad, but table saws, buy an old Craftsman. That way you can put a dado blade on it, and they last forever. The newer ones, they have a short shaft on them, and you can't put a dado blade on there. You almost have to buy a different outfit to make your rabbits.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And last up for tonight is Ernest. Go ahead, Ernest.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a while ago, I got the bee sting right here on the head. I got one on the hand, and I think I heard on this chat use that plantain.
Plantain,
right. And I took plantain, and I made that up even last year and put it in a blender. And I got some of that and put on it and put on my hand. And you can see, I figured I wouldn't be going to church tomorrow. You know, my eye'd be swelled shut, but it completely stopped the sting, and you'd never even know I'd been stung. So I just thought I'd place that out there. People getting bee stings this time of year. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
And that is it for tonight, I think. Nobody else has any other questions? Unless Jeff, do you want to update us?
Sure. Sure. You hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Good and bad news. We got through, the idea here was to winter the hives over in a containment or a shed, heated shed. So they were placed in there in December after being vaporized. All 4 hives made it through to mid-April. Okay. Then I had 2 losses towards the latter part of April. So I got 2 hives now. The 2 losses appears to be, well, they just didn't have enough numbers of bees left inside the boxes. They had plenty of honey. Actually, I'm thinking that I probably didn't need to put the sugar board on top of the hives probably until later in the winter, because they had moved up above their own honey stocks. That's what I found. And no signs of nosema. And let's see, probably one of the hives that went the last week, towards the last week, April, was probably had about 30 bees and the queen left in one grouping near the cells. But below it was full of honey. So a couple lessons there. Probably I gave them too much space. I think Dawn had suggested try to keep the space down, but since I was going to be away 9 weeks, I threw on an extra box of honey on all the hives. One of the hives I have left of the 2 is a little bit low on numbers, and tomorrow probably have a really good weather day where I can get in and see if I might be able to migrate over some brood from one of the stronger hives.
You might want to put them in a nuke box.
Yes, that's my other option. Yeah, there's a really small, the queen looks really good. I looked at her last week, but the numbers are low. So, and the temperature hasn't been really conducive to really delve into the strong hive that's doing very well.
Your number depletion, though, I would say would probably come from your mite problems. You probably just done 1 mite treatment.
No,
I would have done the vaporizer 2 to 3 times before we set in.
Yeah, I did 3 times.
Yeah.
Now they probably, I'm thinking I probably could have modified the temperature in the containment area. Probably I could have elevated it up a little bit, maybe take a little bit of stress off them. But in March, maybe. I kept the temperature down to 39 through mostly all the way to March.
Right.
Okay, and then I gradually elevated it up to 44. And now it's at 50. If you get above 50 degrees, they come out, and then they can't get back in the hive when they're in.
Something you just have to play with until you figure out what the right combination is. And there's people that do it. I mean, no. Actually, all things considered, from the people I know in this immediate area. Now we're in the northern part of Maine. For anybody that doesn't know where I'm located at, we just got rid of snow here this past week. So the pollen is just now starting to come out in the trees. Most of the other beekeepers up here, basically 4 to 6 hives each, mostly those people handling like small farms, small requirements for pollination, they lost all the hives because the winter was a little bit elongated here. It's probably like Elijah had the same problem over in his area. I think where I got 50%, well, I know when I got them through to April, I know I can get them through the rest of the month. It's just a matter of tweaking it. Well, in beekeeping, there's a cycle. It runs 6 to 7 years. And this year here coming up now, this is going to be a year, and it's already starting to show. It's going to be a bumper honey year. So,
yeah, I put some pollen. I just put pollen outside in a containment box. They found it, so they're merrily rolling around in it, along with the local bumblebees. So otherwise than that, I'm quite pleased. For me, success was getting them through to April. Now getting them into May, obviously, before I can move them out, that was an additional challenge. But I think it's a combination of spacing and, like you said, giving them extra dose maybe on the mite side.
Yeah.
But look, it was more of a numbers game. And I think I might have given them too much space. I think I can keep the space down on them so they don't have like 2 deeps and one super, one honey super on top, along with the sugar board. That sugar board draws them up to the top, and they also got sugar reserve, or they got honey reserves below them. They don't go down.
Well, you know, when I first start talking about overwintering in the north with 5-frame nukes back in 90 and 91, everybody thought I was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people found a 5-frame box overwinters much better.
Yeah.
I found that even if you don't have much honey in the bottom, a 5-frame box with a Hive top feeder on it instead of your lid or your inner cover, you can actually put honey there and they will come up because the heat off the cluster radiates up.
Right.
So, you know, you just have to play around and tinker and adjust.
Mm-hmm. So that's where we're at. You know, it's the first attempt, so we'll see.
That's good.
Yep.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Then that'll be it for tonight. We'll see everybody in 2 weeks, which is the 19th. So have a good one. Thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody showing up.